Oh my God, Famita. Oh my God, Famita.
Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm your host, Willie Bragg. I normally don't live stream on a Sunday night, but I decided to tonight. I just felt like, why not? So, and it's a good way to catch up on things to talk about that needs to be talked about, and so therefore that's what I'm doing right now. ready to talk about things that needs to be talked about. So I hope everybody's doing well. As I said, I mean my schedule is the normal. It is the normal Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday schedule. But I told you on occasion I will live stream. I'll live stream whenever I get a chance. So and have the energy for it, and I guess I do now. So there's that. How are you doing, Warren? Yo, I'm yoing right back at you. Max Sarjay, how are you doing? I've been watching the game. Buffalo just scored. Well, I wouldn't know. I don't really keep up with sports, but I'm guessing that's a good thing. Anyway, I guess we'll talk about the worst person Donald Trump has chosen in his cabinet, and they're pretty much all these people are bad. I mean, I certainly sure as hell didn't expect good nominees to take place anywhere in the Trump administration. But the worst of the lot, the worst pick, of course, in my view, the worst pick is Pete Hegseth for Defense Secretary. He is just despicable in every conceivable way one can define someone being despicable. And I mean, he's just, man, he is the worst. He is the worst. When I think of the way that he's going to be described in this video in a moment, says it all. I won't describe it until afterwards, but to the extent that he is the horrible person that he is. Suffice to say that I mean, somebody who's a Fox News person, just that in itself, just makes him horrible. So, and of course, I hate to do this to all of y'all, but this is what the motherfucker looks like. Pete Hegseth. I mean, he looked like a douchebag, don't he? He does to me. So anyhow, let me just get rid of that. So basically it was like a 50-50. It was like 50-50 the votes for his confirmation in the Senate. So I guess that Vice President J.D. Vance will be the deciding vote. And he's going to vote in favor of Pete Hegseth, and that's going to suck. So we'll go ahead and get to the first video to basically describe this guy here. As I said, absolutely awful. Absolutely just awful. All right. Let's see. This is the one. Okay. I think this is it. Nope, this is not it. Let me stop sharing that. I got the wrong video. My bad. Okay. Give me a moment here. Oh, here it is. I apologize.
All right, guys. So we've talked quite a bit about Pete Hegseth. He wants to be the defense secretary. Trump literally picked him because he's on TV. Trump likes Fox News. He watches Fox News all the time. And I mean, how many people who have been on TV has he picked? How many Fox News hosts, Fox Business hosts, CNBC hosts, Larry Kudlow, CNBC host, he had him as a close advisor the last time. I mean, the guy's a simpleton, right? You think, oh, they're on TV. They must know something. They must know stuff. Let's go with them. So he picks Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is particularly dumb. This is a guy who doesn't believe in germ theory. He said that live in front of the world when he was on TV. This is a guy who has some genuinely terrifying political beliefs. He argued that a preemptive strike on North Korea is a good thing. He got into politics by being a pro-Iraq war activist, which, by the way, is quite a thing for quite a person for Trump to pick, given Trump pretended like he was against the Iraq war. Okay, then why are you surrounding yourself with these neocons who were wrong every step of the way? And they're going to be wrong again the next time a war comes up, like with Iran, for example. Trump's already wrong about that, and Hegseth is already wrong about that. So, I mean, the guy is, he's a mess, right? He's a mess. He's a warmonger, and he's also genuinely stupid. So I tell you all that to show you this story. Ready? Pete Hegseth falsely claimed Antifa was behind January 6th, but also condemned the pearl-clutching response to the riot. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth simultaneously blamed far-left groups for the events of January 6th and justified Trump supporters' actions in the days following the riot. So this was found by CNN's K-File. This was a conversation that Hegseth had with Newt Gingrich 4 days after January 6th. So on January 10th, he had this conversation. And guys, it was literally in the same conversation, minutes apart, or even maybe seconds apart. He explains how, bro, this wasn't even the Trump supporters that did it. This wasn't MAGA. MAGA are good people. MAGA are nonviolent people, bro. I don't even know what you're talking about. This was obviously Antifa. This was far left groups, and they're violent and they're terrorists and they're bad and they brought chaos and it was horrible. But also, yeah, MAGA did it, but it was actually kind of based and it was good that they did it. Oh my God. Guys, I used to do this as a bit. To make fun of the far right, where you literally say back to back, like, it was Antifa. Antifa did it and they're terrible and bad and wrong and they need to be locked up and they're terrorists and they're evil. But also MAGA did it and it was actually totally justified because the election was stolen and they were trying to set the record straight. Okay. You have to pick one of those arguments. You cannot pick both of those arguments. How did they not get that? Oh my God. Oh my God. It's like, you've seen this too in online media. There will be people who criticize Democrats from their left, and then they could get like a right-wing audience that follows them. And it's like the right-wing audience either doesn't know or doesn't care that the criticism is coming from the left of the Democrat because they just like that somebody's criticizing the Democrat. And so like they'll enjoy these criticisms when it's like, the person who you like because they're criticizing Democrats is like arguing for socialism. And then in the next breath, they'll be like, well, I hate socialism. It's evil. It's the devil. But I love this socialist commentator because they're shitting on Democrats. And since they're shitting on Democrats, I don't care about the content or the specifics. I just care that you're shitting on Democrats. It's the same thing here, right? Quote, there are reports, in the New York Post and elsewhere, and just from, common sense, that Antifa folks took advantage of this to try to get to the front and try to agitate and create openings for themselves. They, Antifa, want chaos, ultimately. I could even spot it. You can see the helmets where there's a Donald Trump bumper sticker on the back, quickly put on it, so they could look like they wanted to stop the steal. But what they really wanted to do was further the narrative. He continued, quote, the mindset of these people was not overtly radical. It wasn't violent at all. In fact, if you break down the timeline, Newt, much of what was happening on Capitol Hill, the first incursions break through the barricades, happened while Donald Trump was still speaking. Hegseth didn't like the knee-jerk, pearl-clutching response across the spectrum. You were just doing the pearl-clutching when you thought it was Antifa. I talked to the people on the mall. I've talked to them a lot. Listen, they believe the election was stolen. They wish there were more recourses. They've watched what happens. They've seen stories be suppressed before, like Hunter Biden. Bro, this was evil and wrong and Antifa did it. But also it was actually great and cool and they weren't violent and it makes sense that they did it. I'm sorry, but like this is the mark of an idiot, Right. Like, this is the mark of an idiot. You can't contradict yourself within the same fucking argument. You can't do it. You can't do it. But it's just throw mud against the wall and hope something sticks. It's like they were like shopping which narrative is the one that they're ultimately going to land on. Are they going to blame it all on Antifa and say it was bad? Or are they going to say it was Trump supporters and it was based? Or are they going to say, no, it was bad again, but it was the feds who did it? Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to take these people seriously. I don't know how, like, you just got to say it like it is. Some people are too far gone. You're not going to convince some people. You're not going to convince Pete Hegseth. He's not going to start making sense. He's not going to stop being an idiot. And this is a guy who Trump wants for defense secretary. Defense secretary. Remember, there was a big deal made about like his tattoos, and J.D. Vance was like, yeah, how dare you attack somebody for having Christian tattoos? This is anti-Christian bigotry. Well, come to find out the tattoo was like a tattoo for the Crusades. It's a little misleading to say, oh, it's just a Christian tattoo. No, it's not just a Christian tattoo. It's a tattoo for the Crusades. And this is a guy who was caught in a bar drunk chanting, kill all Muslims, kill all Muslims. Also, by the way, people accuse him of having a genuine drinking problem. And you want to know his reaction was? I promise, if you pick me to be defense secretary, I won't have another drink. What? That's like classic alcoholic would say this sort of shit. Oh, my God. What are we going to do? This is who we picked. This is who we picked for defense secretary, bro. For defense secretary. We thought everything in the first administration was bad. And it was, right? We had the Mike Pompeos and the Gina Haspels and the John Boltons and neocon psychopaths all around him. Warmonger after warmonger. Well, this time it's the same. Except perhaps the warmongers are even dumber. People like Pete Hegseth. So, buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps.
I played that video because it was a pretty good representation of the kind of scumbag that Pete Hegseth is. And you know, as I said, I just needed to have that as a reference because, like he said, Kyle Kalinske said, Pete Hegseth was initially a never Trumper Republican, and I have said many times that never Trumper Republicans are the worst people around from 2016 because they were never Trumper Republicans because they thought that Trump was too not right wing enough. And then in 2020 and in 2024, they became the most insufferable pro-Trump sycophants you'll ever run across. They're the worst of the Trump supporters, the ones who were never Trumpers in 2016 and 2020 and 2024. They are the worst, absolute worst of the MAGA crowd because they rejected him the first time because he was not conservative enough in their eyes. Trump. But once Trump came in there and he did some shitty things policy-wise, they're like, oh, Trump is my guy. And so that's all it takes. It just takes just being a shitty person and doing some shitty things for some of these people to get won over like that. And you know, not just a never Trumper, evangelical Christian Zionist type, you know, just a neocon, a pro-Iraq war activist, somebody who's to this day haven't apologized over it. This person is basically John Hagee meets John Bolton. You just really can't get any worse. I mean, you might as well. I mean, you might as well just you know, bring back you know, Dick Cheney and all those other goons from the previous Republican administration, because that's all in, you know, in essence what Pete Hegseth is. Now, you know, Marco Rubio is just a polite version of it, and you know, hopefully, just like John Bolton, hopefully he'll do something stupid and Trump will fire him. We don't know. But as I said, he's just like one of the worst people you can imagine. Now the gray zone also had this is going back a little bit too, and the gray zone had they did a piece on him as well, and I'll share. So give me a moment here, and here we go.
And this was a guy who was a never Trumper before he realized that Trump was the path to power, and he was courted by the most extreme factions within the Israel lobby. We're talking now about Trump's nominee for defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, who wrote a book on becoming how to be an American crusader. And this is him in Jerusalem at an event sponsored partly by Ateret Kohanim, which is the group that raises money from the US and around the world to colonize East Jerusalem, areas like Silwan, where Palestinians face violent home demolitions, and to eject people from their homes, indigenous Palestinians, and just put Jewish settlers in hours later. And he was taken on a tour of the most extreme settlements in the occupied West Bank. And he says one of the craziest things an American politician has ever said about Israel. I mean, there's a lot of competition because they're all competing all these American politicians are all competing to be Netanyahu's Shabbos Goy. Not that he observes the Sabbath, but you know what I'm saying. Listen to what he had to say.
And today, Jennifer and I and others had a chance to go see the Western Wall of the Temple Mount, the Western Wall tunnels, so much of the old city. And as you stand there, you can't help but behold the miracle before you. And it got me thinking about another miracle that I hope all of you don't see too far away. Because 1917 was a miracle. 1948 was a miracle. 1967 was a miracle. 2017, the declaration of Jerusalem as the capital was a miracle. And there's no reason why the miracle of the reestablishment of the temple on the Temple Mount is not possible.
I mean, that's apocalypse talk right there. He's basically calling for the destruction of the third holiest site in Islam and the construction of the third Jewish temple. He's endorsing the agenda of the most extreme factions of Netanyahu's coalition government, which is the most fanatical government in Israel's history. And you rarely hear someone who has any influence on a national level in U.S. politics going that far that I can remember. And since Aaron, I just saw that Aaron stepped away for a second.
Of all Trump's picks at the cabinet level, he to me is the scariest because this guy is in charge of the Pentagon. So has anybody in history, I mean, or at least in U.S. history, been in such a high position with such fanatic views if he is confirmed? I don't think so. I think he would be the most fanatic cabinet member in history. Maybe I'm missing something. I mean, like George Bush was an evangelical, obviously, but did he ever talk about Palestine in that way? No, he even actually referred to Palestine as an occupation. I think he understood there was an occupation. Pete Hegseth, whatever his name is, this is off the charts. Along with Mike Huckabee, Trump's potential ambassador to Israel, also off the charts in fanaticism.
Yeah, I mean, we know Huckabee. He's sort of a John Hagee, Christian Zionist acolyte. He sees Jerusalem, occupied Jerusalem, as the future landing pad of the Messiah. And he's sort of more of a traditional Christian Zionist. Like you see when you're on a flight to Israel, you'll see them and they're wearing like logos or pins of Israel and America. They tend to be over the age of 60 or 70, travel in packs. They listen to whatever their tour guides tell them. Pete Hegseth's from another generation. He's from another wing of the Christian right. And he, to the extent that he really is following Christian values. I mean, there are some stories at Fox News that are pretty mind-blowing. But what he's saying there, what he's doing is he's endorsing the temple movement. The temple movement is supported by Itamar Ben-Gvir, the security minister, Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, and is a movement that believes that the Jewish prayer that takes place at the Western Wall is actually heretical, and that Jews are not supposed to pray there. They're actually supposed to sanctify God up beyond the wall at what is now the Al-Aqsa compound, which needs to be destroyed and replaced with the third temple. And it is there that they will continually sacrifice sheep in order to sanctify God, as the Jews of the Bible did, as the original Jews did before the second temple was destroyed. And that requires religious warfare, a full-on religious war, which Pete Hegseth seems to represent in his tattoo collection. He's got a Crusader tattoo. Then he's got some Declaration of Independence tattoos on his arm, and the unit he served within Iraq. But it's like clownishness. It's complete clownishness. And to have a defense secretary like this, I mean, Aaron, let's face it, Lloyd Austin, he's basically under the influence of the Israel lobby. He has no power to resist anything Netanyahu wants to do. He's a political appointee and loyalist of Biden. Every defense secretary of our lifetime has basically done what Israel wanted, short of attacking Iran.
And Raytheon too. In the case of Lloyd Austin, he was on the Raytheon board and will be handsomely rewarded as soon as he leaves public office and returns to his old role.
Great point. I mean, and Patrick Shanahan, I mean, he was another defense lobbyist. All these guys walk through the revolving door. Pete Hegseth sort of comes out of nowhere. He comes out of a Fox green room. That's the same place Trump got John Bolton, by the way, into the defense secretary, onto that podium to speak to the world, into one of the most consequential positions in the world, because the Pentagon has bases, an archipelago of bases around the world. This discussion, if we were having this discussion and we were like Dutchmen or we were Canadians and we were talking about Canadian politics, nobody really would be watching from outside our country. But people are watching us now because we're talking about an administration that will have an enormous influence on what takes place around the world. And this clown will be the head of the Pentagon, the largest office building in the world. And so in a lot of ways, I can welcome this as lifting the mask on U.S. empire and lifting the mask on the Israel-U.S. special relationship, and in doing great damage to it in the process. If I were an Israel lobbyist, I would be pretty worried about Pete Hegseth and what he could actually do to the perception of the U.S.-Israeli relationship, because it's all going to be out there now. And he has said that that Zionism and American national security interests are fundamentally intertwined, and that connection forms the foundation of Western civilization. He said that to a Israel lobby group. And he said that he fought not to prevent wars, but to prepare for a war on behalf of Israel that his sons, Gunnar, Boone, and Rex, would fight. I don't know if he was in a naming competition with Sarah Palin, but he said that. It's clownish in the same way that Elise Stefanik is just so making it so obvious. I mean, this is someone who wouldn't be known if she weren't serving Israel's agenda in Congress, browbeating class presidents for not banning Palestine solidarity student groups, for the same reason that Mike Huckabee lifts the mask. But every other U.S. ambassador to Israel has basically been an Israeli-U.S. reciprocal ambassador. Mike Huckabee is just making it so clear what it's all about. This is deeply damaging to U.S. soft power.
Yes. And this explains the animus toward Trump from the establishment. It's not really a policy difference, because what has Trump done except for say nice things about Vladimir Putin or Kim Jong-un that really differs from other presidents, like policy-wise? But he does lift the mask off. He does blurt out the wrong things. He does say things like, we're in Syria to take the oil. You're supposed to say we're in Syria to fight terrorism and spread democracy. And he appoints fanatics like this guy who do expose that what the U.S. really is, which is a global hegemon in alliance with the most extremist government in the world, Israel.
And not just an alliance, I think, like in many ways under the influence of.
Well, whatever the nature of the relationship, the point is they're in lockstep, and people like Antony Blinken will go out there and pretend to care about Palestinians while still perpetuating their genocide. These people won't. They dispense with the pretense of concern for human rights and all that. So yeah, in that respect, I agree with you that people like this, it is a mask-off moment. The fanaticism at that level, the open fanaticism at that level, is something unprecedented, I think.
Yeah, that you pretty much heard it right there. How much of a lunatic he is. He's definitely somebody that's very unfit for the office, and unfortunately, he looks like he's going to be the defense secretary. Let's see. Commissary Kate asks, when did this Gray Zone air? And the answer is November 19th last year, 2024, just a few weeks after the 2024 election, when he was, I guess, first nominated. And so I didn't even really know about Pete Hegseth, strangely enough, until believe it or not, my I don't know what the hell happened to my dad. My dad's not conservative anymore, but he's not a Trump fan now these days. He was a lifelong Republican. He's no longer a Republican, not all. So, but he told me about Pete Hegseth, and I didn't even realize that. So I was like, I should have been on top of this. And I checked up on Pete Hegseth, and I'm like, holy cow. Oh, okay. This guy's actually worse than John Bolton. And he's worse than some of these other people, creeps that I ran on about from a couple of administrations ago, 20 years ago. Hopefully we're not going to see part two. That remains to be seen. But I'm going to do something that I normally don't do, because I'm going to compliment somebody that I absolutely despise. It didn't stop Pete Hegseth from becoming Secretary of Defense. However, the fact that, and he had his own reasons for doing it. It's not like we think he's a good guy now. But apparently Mitch McConnell voted against Pete Hegseth. Look, a stop clock gives the right time twice a day. Doesn't mean that Mitch McConnell, the turtle man, is a good person all of a sudden. Doesn't mean that he's awesome, and doesn't mean that he's made a tremendous turnaround or change of heart. I have my reasons why that I think he voted against him. I don't care why per se, but I'm glad he did. I wish there would have been more people that would have voted to prevent this nomination from taking place. But suffice to say, I'm going to share this article here from The Hill. This is from The Hill. Let me find it. And here we go. And this is from when did this come out? It came out, a couple of days ago. January 24th, by Alexander Bolton. Former Senator Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who stepped down from the leadership at the end of last year, cast a surprise vote Friday night against Pete Hegseth, President Trump's controversial nominee for head of the Department of Defense. His vote came as a surprise after he voted Thursday night to advance Hegseth's nomination to a final vote. McConnell said that he does not have confidence in Hegseth's ability to lead the Pentagon at a time of escalating national security threats posed by Russia, China, Iran, and their proxy. effective management of nearly $3 million $3 million of military and civilian personnel, an annual budget of nearly $1 trillion, and alliances and partnership around the world is a daily test of staggering consequences of the security of the American people and the global interests, he said in a statement. Mr. Hegseth has failed as yet to demonstrate that he will pass the test, but as he assumes office, the consequences of failure are high as they have ever been, he said. That was my Mitch McConnell impression, just in case you didn't notice. McConnell said that Hegseth, during the confirmation hearing, provided no substantive observations on how to defend Taiwan or the Philippines against the Chinese attack, or even whether he believes the United States. He said that Hegseth also failed to articulate any detail and strategic vision for countering rising China's aggression in the Far East. Absent too was any substantive discussion of countering our adversaries' alignment with deep alliances, relationship with more extensive defense industrial cooperation of our own, he said. The veteran Kentucky lawmaker, I like to call him the Republican Kentucky oligarch, but you know, had played his cards close to the vest and didn't say anything as he walked into the chamber. Asked by reporters whether he would support Trump's pick to lead the Pentagon, he also raised his eyebrows in a mysterious gesture. McConnell joined fellow Republican Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, in opposing Hegseth on the final vote, forcing Vice President Vance to show up at the Senate chamber to cast the tie-breaking vote to get the nomination, to get the embattled nominee across the line. Senate Armed Service Committee Chairman Roger Wicker, Republican of Mississippi, hinted before the vote that there might be some late-night drama. Asked if Hegseth had votes, Wicker said, I think we'll probably need to see the vice president. Hegseth's nomination met with objection from Collins and Murkowski, as well as many senior Democrats about his lack of managerial experience. Managerial experience is important, but his ideology is what's disturbing. But anyway, Collins, in a statement Thursday, said she was concerned about Mr. Hegseth that does not have the management experience and background that he will need in order to tackle the difficulties facing the military at a time of conflicts in the Middle East and Europe with escalating threats in the Pacific. Hegseth had faced allegations that he sexually assaulted a woman at a Republican conference in Monterey, California in 2017, that he mismanaged the finances of two veteran groups that he had led, and that he would get drunk at work events while wearing the military uniform. Hegseth has promised Republican senators that he will stop drinking if confirmed as U.S. Secretary of Defense. So the drinking part doesn't bother me. Harassing a woman is problematic in itself. But the ideology is what's really disturbing about this guy. And he deserves to be nowhere near this position. Somebody, again, I'm not saying, some people will be like, you just don't like him because he's an evangelical Christian. Yeah. Not that if he's a Christian, if he's a rational thinking Christian, not psychotic about his beliefs, fine. But yeah, somebody who wants to interpret the Bible literally and rush in some kind of cataclysmic event around the world in that position, absolutely not. You know, there's nothing more dangerous than a fundamentalist Christian that's a neocon. And that is Pete Hegseth. And that is problematic. And someone like that should be nowhere near the presidency, near the vice presidency, near any of these cabinets, especially dealing with the military, dealing with national security, or any of that sort of thing, or foreign relations with other countries. That's what it basically comes down to. And, you know, the thing about it is, as defense secretary, I mean, he's not even a general. So, you know, some of these senior officers, some of these people high up in the military are going to resent the fact that this motherfucker is going to be bossing them around. Well, let's see what happens. You know, as I said, and no, I don't think he's qualified in so many fields. And as I said, I'll say it. I think that the fact that he's a fundamentalist Christian whack job is all the reason to not give it to him. We don't want him anywhere near anything dealing with government, but the military is probably probably the most dangerous place to be in that regard. So, you know, just that's where I stand with that. But also, talking of Craig Browning's talking about Antifa versus pro FA. Here's the thing about the Antifa thing with regard to January 6th. I mean, I've heard many people on the right said Antifa and Black Lives Matter infiltrated that movement to make the MAGA people look bad. And my rebuttal is that they don't need any help in looking bad. They have done a wonderful job on their own looking bad. And I'm not a zealot when it comes to January 6th insurrection. It's like I'm not for, you know, the majority of them, they were just wanting to get their rocks off. They had no idea they were going to march into the Capitol. Sure. You know, nothing worse than a misdemeanor, but pardoning all those people, I had a problem with. Yeah. I mean, you know, I had a problem with it because, you know, when they're screaming unalive Mike Pence, no fan of Mike Pence, but you know, anybody who wants to unalive anybody, regardless, they lost the plot as far as I'm concerned. And that was just totally fucked up, you know. Imagine it be the other way around. Imagine if, you know, well, just imagine if it would have been a bunch of lefty activists, you know, doing this if Trump would have been reelected. You know, I mean, yeah. The right would have just been like throw the book at him, throw him under the jail, lock him up. You know, they'll even talk about, you know, doing, you know, probably urging executions and that sort of thing. So we see this as a kind of a double standard right there. So, but anyhow, yeah, I think he's horrible. Hate the guy. And unfortunately, it looks like he's going to be the next defense secretary. So, welcome back to 2003, folks. And we're back. Did we ever leave the year 2003? That's a good question to ask. So, yeah, I'll be back tomorrow evening, doing the next video. And so as I said, I wanted to do that this evening. So if you like what you heard, please press like and comment. Comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. We'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on your channel, my channel. And as a First Amendment absolutist, is my intention to ask you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are the muckrakers of our times. So muckrake away. And remember to reject corporate media. Subscribe to the Willie Bragg Show, please. And you know, free and pardon Ed Snowden, and fully pardon Julian Assange, and free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and preserve absolute freedom of speech. And until next time, and thank you, Decimantis. Until next time, everybody, I'm out of here. I will say, like I normally do, fuck Elon Musk. Take care. Bye-bye.